Captain Ryan Garrett was escorted through the Theraxian Imperial Palace under heavy guard, hands bound, uniform stripped of insignia. A prisoner in everything but name. 3 days ago, he'd commanded the transport vessel Horizon during a supply run to a contested border system. The mission went catastrophically wrong when the Theraxian warships intercepted them, accusing humans of violating treaty terms. In the confrontation, Ryan made a split-second decision that saved his crew but destroyed a Theraxian military installation. He detected what sensors indicated was a weapons platform preparing to fire on his unarmed transport, and he'd authorized defensive countermeasures. The installation was destroyed. His crew escaped. Only afterward did intelligence confirm the weapons platform had been a border monitoring station, not an active threat. 23 Theraxian personnel died. Now Ryan faced consequences before Empress Velara Thorne, the most powerful being in the Theraxian space, known for ruthless justice. The Theraxians were an ancient warrior culture with pointed ears and rigid honor code. Destroying military installations and killing citizens typically resulted in public execution as demonstration of justice. Ryan knew this. Humanity knew this. He'd been delivered to the Empress as treaty obligation. Crimes against the Theraxians require the Theraxian justice. The throne room was magnificent and terrifying. Sharp angles, martial aesthetics, guards positioned like statues, courtiers watching with cold calculation. Empress Velara sat on her throne, fury radiating from her. Her pointed ears pressed back, extreme anger signal. Her posture rigid with controlled rage. Her eyes promised death. The guard captain forced Ryan to his knees, announcing charges in formal Theraxian. Destruction of imperial property, unlawful killing of imperial citizens, violation of treaty terms. Each charge carried death sentence. Velara rose, descending with echoing steps. She stopped before Ryan, looking down with absolute fury. Ryan prepared for execution. Instead, Velara spoke, shattering every expectation. "You absolute fool, you magnificent, impossible fool. You saved them. You saved all of them and you didn't even know it." The throne room froze in confusion. Ryan's mind couldn't process it. Magnificent fool, saved them. Velara's fury hadn't diminished, but something else showed beneath, something like anguish. She gestured sharply. The throne room cleared instantly until only Ryan, Velara, and 2 trusted advisors remained. "Explain what you thought you were doing when you fired on that installation," Velara said, voice tight. Ryan answered honestly. "My sensors detected what appeared to be a weapons platform charging for attack. My ship was unarmed, filled with civilians. I had seconds to decide. I authorized defensive measures to protect my crew. Your sensors detected a weapons platform. Yes, Empress, and it never occurred to you that it might be something else. Not in the moment. Afterward," his voice cracked. "Afterward, I learned it was a monitoring station. That I'd killed 23 people just doing their jobs. I've carried that knowledge every day since." Velara was silent, her ears slowly shifting forward, anger giving way to something complex. Then she did something unexpected. She pulled up a holographic display showing sensor data and intelligence reports. "What you don't know, Captain Garrett, is that your sensors were correct. That monitoring station wasn't just monitoring. It was a weapons platform, heavily armed, deliberately disguised as civilian infrastructure. She showed more data, and it was preparing to fire on your ship." Ryan stared at the evidence, mind reeling. "But the reports said what I needed them to say, what I needed everyone to believe." Velara's fury was back, but Ryan understood it wasn't directed at him. "For 3 months, my intelligence services have been tracking a conspiracy within my own military, officers who believe peace with humanity is weakness, who want to restart the war by creating an incident forcing retaliation." She gestured to the data. "That installation was part of their plan. They were going to destroy your unarmed transport, kill everyone aboard, make it look like tragic accident." then discover evidence that humans violated treaty terms, giving justification to demand military response. Ryan's stomach dropped. They were going to start a war. They were going to try. But you disrupted their plan by defending yourself competently. You destroyed their installation before it could destroy your ship. Velara's expression was hard. The 23 people who died, most were conspirators. 3 were innocent personnel assigned without knowing the true purpose. Then, why am I here? Why the public arrest and charges? Because the conspiracy runs deeper than one installation. There are officers throughout my military who sympathize even if not directly involved. If I'd simply announced what happened, they'd claim I was covering for human aggression. She met his eyes. I needed them to think they'd succeeded in part, that you were being punished, that Theraxian justice was being served, that I was furious with humanity. So this is theater. This is survival for both our peoples. Velara's fury was clearly directed at her government's corruption. I had to bring you here publicly, charge you publicly, demonstrate fury publicly. While knowing you're not a criminal, you're the one who saved us from destroying the peace I've spent 3 years building. Ryan remained on his knees, processing. What happens now? Velara gestured for him to stand. Now I navigate the most complicated political situation of my reign. I can't simply pardon you. That confirms to sympathizers I'm choosing humanity over the Theraxian lives. But I can't execute you because you don't deserve death, and you're the only witness who can testify about what actually happened. She began pacing. I've spent 3 days since your arrest rooting out the conspiracy, arresting key figures, securing evidence. But there are still those who believe the official story. Those people expect justice. An older advisor spoke. There is precedent, Empress. Trial by testimony. If Captain Garrett presents evidence satisfying the court, he can be acquitted honorably. And if the evidence exposes the conspiracy, it exposes how deep the rot goes, Ryan said, understanding. You'd admit your own officers tried to start a war. That undermines confidence in the Theraxian security. Velara stopped pacing, looking at him with what might be respect. You understand politics better than I expected from a transport captain. I understand that sometimes the truth is complicated. They spent hours planning strategy. The trial would be public, Ryan allowed to present his defense. Evidence of conspiracy would be introduced carefully, enough to justify Ryan's actions without destabilizing military confidence. Key conspirators would be exposed, but the extent downplayed to prevent panic. Careful balance between justice and stability, truth and political necessity. Through planning, Ryan understood the woman behind the title. Velara was brilliant, ruthless when necessary, but deeply committed to peace. She'd spent years building diplomatic relations after war, managing military factions who saw peace as betrayal. Why did you do it? Ryan asked during a pause. Invest so much in peace. Your people are warriors. War is your tradition. Velara's expression softened. Because I saw what war cost us. I watched my brother die in the final battle. I watched colonies burn. I watched our strength turn against itself in pointless destruction. She met his eyes. Strength without purpose is just violence. Peace isn't weakness. It's choosing to build rather than destroy. That choice requires more courage than war. Ryan saw the weight she carried, leading a warrior culture towards something that felt like surrender to many, constant threat of undermining, loneliness of decisions affecting billions. I'm sorry, he said, for the 3 innocent people who died, for the complications I've caused. You didn't cause this. The conspirators did. You simply refused to die quietly, which is actually the best thing you could have done. She almost smiled, though you could have been less competent about escaping. The trial began the next day, formal, martial, with clear rules. Ryan presented his case. Sensor data showing the installation charging weapons, seconds to decide, priority of protecting civilian lives. The prosecution argued he should have attempted communication first, that destruction was excessive force. Then Velara introduced evidence. carefully, precisely, showing the installation was armed and preparing to fire, that Ryan's response was justified self-defense. She exposed enough conspiracy to vindicate Ryan without revealing full extent. The court deliberated. Ryan's life hung in balance, along with peace between peoples and Velara's control of her military. The verdict: justified action in self-defense. Ryan was acquitted of all charges. The conspirators found guilty of treason and conspiracy to commit war crimes. Justice, carefully managed and strategically presented, had been served. Velara summoned him for final private meeting before release. They met in her study, less formal, more human despite the Theraxian aesthetics. "You've become a problem," Velara said. "A useful problem, but still a problem." "How so?" "You're the human nearly executed but saved by the Theraxian justice. Proof our system works fairly. My diplomatic corps wants to use you as example." She poured drinks. "But you're also a reminder of how close we came to war. My military wants you to disappear quietly." "What do you want?" "I want you to help me prevent this from happening again. I need someone who understands both perspectives, who's proven they can make good decisions under pressure, who conspirators' sympathizers can't dismiss as biased." She leaned forward. "I need advisors I can trust absolutely." "That list is distressingly short. You've proven your character. You defended yourself appropriately, took responsibility, cooperated with justice even when you thought it meant death. That's rare." Ryan thought about returning to his old life. Then thought about the 3 innocent Theraxians who died, the conspiracy that would have killed everyone on his ship, the fragile peace requiring constant maintenance. "I'm not a diplomat. I'm a transport captain who made one good decision under pressure. You're someone who chose correctly when it mattered. That's all leadership is." Velara's expression was earnest. "I'm asking, not commanding. Will you help me maintain this peace?" "Yes, on one condition." "Name it." "The families of those 3 innocent people, I want them to know the truth. That their deaths weren't meaningless, that they helped expose something dangerous, that I'm sorry." Velara's expression softened. "That exposes more of the conspiracy than we've publicly acknowledged. They deserve the truth, and if I'm going to work for you, I need to do it without that lie between us. You're going to be a difficult advisor." "Probably." Velara laughed, actual warm laughter. "Good. I have enough advisors who tell me what I want to hear." She extended her hand. "Welcome to the most frustrating job in the galaxy, Captain Garrett." Ryan took her hand, and it felt like alliance, partnership, mutual commitment to something larger than either of them. Over following months, Ryan became an unusual fixture, the human advisor to the Empress, the bridge between species, living symbol of justice transcending cultural boundaries. A year later, they stood on a balcony overlooking the capital, discussing the latest diplomatic challenge. "Do you ever regret it?" Ryan asked. "Saving me instead of executing me and maintaining the cover story." Velara considered. "Every day when sympathizers make my life difficult. But no, not truly. You were right about the families, and having someone I trust absolutely is worth the political complications. Even when I tell you your ideas are terrible." "Especially then." She smiled, ears tilted in contentment. "Though you could be more diplomatic occasionally. Where's the fun in that?" They stood in comfortable silence looking at the city. "I was furious when I summoned you," Velara said quietly. "Not at you specifically, but at the situation. At the conspiracy, at my failure to prevent it, at how close we'd come to losing everything. Then I saw you there, expecting to die for a correct decision, and I realized I'd been given an opportunity. To use me politically, to choose truth over convenience, to trust that justice and honesty would work better than cover-ups." She turned to face him. "You changed my approach to governance, made me braver about choosing the difficult right path. You saved my life, seems like an even trade. Not even close, but we'll call it even anyway." They returned inside, back to maintaining peace, navigating differences, preventing the next conspiracy. The Empress, who summoned a prisoner expecting to execute him, found an advisor, ally, and friend. The captain who expected death found purpose, partnership, and proof that worst moments lead to best outcomes when people choose correctly despite fear. Velara's fury that day had been real. But her words, calling him a magnificent fool who saved everyone, had been equally real. He disrupted a conspiracy, survived a trial, became the bridge between species that neither knew they needed. Together, they were building something that would outlast both of them. Peace maintained not through